there. Figured it out. All right. Desktop. Okay. All right. Take one. Welcome to the Courageous Recovery broadcast. I'm your host, Randy Mortensen. This is a weekly 20 to 25-minute program where we provide answers for your I don't know how. Whether you're dealing with recovery issues or maybe life has just thrown you one more curveball than you were expecting, or you're dealing with emotions from a loss, it's so good to have you here. You're going to be blown away by the passion and the expertise of my guest today, Joel Simmons, and just I'm excited because we've had a chance to get to know each other, and I'm just blown away by his passion to help and serve people. It's much appreciated that you're taking time from your busy schedules to connect. Depending on the platform that you're watching or listening to this on, you should see a subscribe button. If you do, please subscribe. And if there's a chat box or an area for comments, please share your comments with us. We hugely value your input and your feedback. For more information on the services that I have to offer, you can go to my website, which is randymortensen.com. That's Randy, MORTENSEN.com. You will see on the front page there a 21-point assessment. That's a tool to determine whether you or a loved one qualifies for one of my programs called the Lifestyle Champion Cohort. So without further, if I could find my mouse right now, without further delay, Mr. Joel, welcome to the Courageous Recovery podcast.
How's it going there, Randy? Thank you so much for having me on. I brought
Well,
my
it's just
doggy Timmy here with me as well. So
yes. It's always good to have another guest. So I have two guests from your end. So anybody that's listened to the program more than once knows that my usual first question is, what is there that you know today that you wish your 22-year-old self would have known? How do you respond to that?
well, at first I thought that would be an extremely difficult answer. And then I thought about it again. Everything that I've learned, everything that I've been through, it honestly has brought me to this point that I'm at today. And I'm blessed to have three children. I've helped raise more children than that underneath my own household. I've got godchildren. I've been through a lot of things, but I don't think that I would go back and tell myself anything at all. Because if I were to listen to any of my own advice and change one thing, then I may not have what I have now. So, regardless of struggle, pain, or happiness or joy, I prefer to just have my life today as it is today.
Well, okay, so that's a good response, but I'm going to poke you a little more. So tell me about your 22-year-old self.
My 22-year-old self wasn't too bad of a guy. I started to get my act together right around the age of 18, 19. I really was blessed in that way. So my 22-year-old self wasn't too bad of a guy. I was absolutely 1000% into following the gospel and helping people. And I just became this radiant individual who wanted to help every single person that I laid eyes on. And I felt like the entire world was my oyster and I needed to be able to help everyone. And if I couldn't help everyone, then I could help someone. I don't know what happened. I mean, I do know what happened, but I was a lot. I was a whole lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you did share with me that you did have a journey that started out with some alcohol and did some cocaine and even some other goofy things that you were silly enough to put up your nose or to swallow, right? So to be set free of that in your late teens was just a huge blessing for you.
Yeah, it was. I started at a young age. My rebellious days started at the age of 13. So I had gone through much more than many people had been through by the time I turned 20. I had seen a lot more than most people would dare want to see. And I had been a part of different things that people would not have wanted to be a part of. And part of that progression was there was some influences in drug and alcohol and outlandish behavior.
Yeah, and at the same time, doing what you're doing today, it gives you more credibility with that guy that's struggling when you can say, "I know how you feel. I used to feel the same way. This is the pathway I've gone down, and here's who I am today." Right? It gives us credibility from that standpoint.
It definitely does. And the funny thing about it is, only a couple of days ago, I was in the gym, I was working out, and while I was working out, one of the guys that I know that I actually have known for about 22, 23, 24 years, something like that. Since about 1998, I've known this person. And when I met that person, I was on the tail end of being a different individual, a much, much different individual. So while I was speaking with this person, they were telling me about how they just started to read their Bible, and they were reading, every morning, and they felt like it was making a change inside of their life. And they looked at me and they said, I remember you. I remember, and there's a few people out there, I guess, many people, they look at me now, they don't see where I've been. They have no clue of what I've been through because I'm nothing like that. But they remember me when, I was thin and I had dreads in my head and I was listening to different music and I spoke a different language and I acted a different way. And he said, I remember that. And I see where you are now. And I remember I was doing better than you were then.
Yeah.
And so it impacts you in a great way. So I don't share my story with everyone, Randy. Quite frankly, I don't. I
Yeah.
don't bring it up if I don't need to. I only share it when I need to, because I understand something that people will only hear or listen if they want to. And if they don't want to, it doesn't matter what I say. It'll make no difference, because when I was there, I only listened to the people that I desired to listen to. And if you opened up a Bible or you tried to break my mind with certain things because you had been there and done that, then the first thing I did was turn the volume down on my hearing,
Right.
hit that mute button. So
Right.
it's more about the relationship, and from the relationship and people knowing you, I think that they'll open up and hear much more of whatever you have to say.
Well, and the other what I'll add to that too is one of the titles, a title of one of the keynotes that I do is titled I'm crushing the stigma, right? So crushing the stigma is, for some people, like you just mentioned, it's not safe for me to say I've been sober 31 years. It's not safe for me to say, yeah, I struggled with alcohol, or I struggled with poor choices with women, or whatever. It's not safe because, like you just said, they're immediately going to judge me, or they're going to immediately judge you, and stop listening, unless they're to the point where they realize their life has become unmanageable, where they realize they're about to lose it all. And that's when people may want to know that we have been successful, and then they say, can you help me? And that's what blows my mind is when somebody comes up and says, can you help me? And I'll say, you can help yourself. It's a decision that you need to make, basically. But yeah, I I love I love your forthrightness, and in talking about your business today and your purpose today. An awesome dad, a great husband, a dedicated owner, saving lives and tenacity. You want to be an international speaker too, so we need to encourage our listeners to check you out when it comes to wanting to be an international speaker, right?
Well, I appreciate it.
Abs-
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And you've been a firefighter. Did I read those notes correct?
I am. I'm a firefighter still to this day. Firefighter, paramedic, lieutenant. 15
Oh,
years.
I didn't know you were still doing that. Okay. All right. Wow. Well done. Well done. And in teaching CPR, how critical is it for somebody to know CPR in your opinion?
I think everyone should know CPR. Everybody. I'm actually in the middle of opening up a non-for-profit. And the whole idea, I mean, whenever this takes place, it will take place, but I still give out free classes even to this day. And the free classes, mind you, they're not for those that have the job and they are required. The free classes are for children and they're for grandparents and they're for people, they're for the community. We also are designing a program. The 501c3 is necessary because I want to give away AEDs. See, I sell AEDs as well to individuals and companies and whatnot, but I want to give away AEDs. And the only way I can give away them is I have to have sponsorship so people can purchase the AEDs and I can purchase AEDs. And then I go out and go to a local church or a library or somewhere where people gather together and they don't have the funds to be able to purchase the AED. I can give them the AED. I can teach them the CPR. I can teach them how to use the AED. And then I can show up every 6 months or so and make sure that that AED is still functioning, or if they have any new employees or they have any new people in the community that want to be a part of it. And we can teach those new people. And then we can teach their parents and their grandparents and the children, because knowing CPR makes a huge difference. What people don't understand is, as me as a firefighter paramedic, when I show up, I'm there on average in the United States of America. It takes 30 minutes before you get an ambulance to show up to your door. Now, most people don't understand that because they live in a city. But when you start to go out into these rural areas where they have a volunteer fire department, they're not getting somebody for an hour long. And they're dealing with someone who has had an MI, a myocardial infarction, and that person will most likely, unfortunately, not live because nobody knows CPR. So this is key. Everybody should know CPR. This is basic. You learn how to walk, you learn how to talk, you learn CPR. Now you know how to save a life.
Wow. Wow. I didn't even know I was going to ask you that question. I'm glad I did. that was huge because I had no hint. I knew an ambulance wasn't going to be there in 3 or 4 minutes. That I knew, but I had no clue that it was an average of 30 minutes is what you said, right?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So I know there's somebody that's saying right now, okay, I got to get a hold of Joel. How do I do that, right? So what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you and get connected with you?
So they can look me up on LinkedIn, Joel Simmons. They can look me up on Instagram, tenacity_foundation. They can look me up on YouTube, Tenacity Foundation. They can email me, joel@tenacityfoundation.com or simmons.savinglives@yahoo.com, or they can call the business at 561-696-2028.
Okay, great. And ladies and gentlemen, in the show notes, you will see those various contact opportunities that Joel just laid out. And also, if you would like, you can go ahead and send me a text. Just text champion to 6686. I've said it too many times. I couldn't remember what to text. Text champion to 66866 and I'll respond and get you connected with Joel. You can also give my office number a call. That is 321-757-HOPE. That's 321-757-HOPE. And I will get you connected that way. I also want to make mention of a Lifestyle Champion Weekend for Men's event that's coming up the first weekend in April. Hard to believe that's only about 4 weeks away, but it's titled Lifestyle Champion Weekend for Men, And it's an opportunity for guys to come together to, depending on their spiritual walk, where they are. We offer an evaluate phase. There's actually 7 phases. The first 3 are what are most important. Number 1 is evaluate. Number 2 is equip. And then how do you engage with others? And then one of those 7 E's is actually enjoy also. So if you're interested, you can go to lifestylechampion.org. That's lifestylechampion.org. And if you're going to sign up, which I hope you do, we offer a discount by using hashtag champion. You can save $50 off the registration fee. It actually starts Friday night with dinner and concludes right before lunch on Sunday. So would love to have you there. And we've seen major impact on guys that have attended over the last few years. So again, that's the first weekend in April in beautiful Oviedo, Florida. So enough about me, Joel. When you're talking to, board members or teams or crews or pastors, what are you seeing in the midst of this pandemic? What are you seeing, or maybe we're coming out of the pandemic? How's that? That's more positive, right? What are you seeing that guys are struggling with more today than maybe they were 2 or 3 years ago? Anything come to mind?
That's interesting. I have many circles, right? So I have the circles amongst my peers as preachers, and there's a lot of faith there, and there's a lot of perseverance there, and they're moving forward, teaching people, stand by the principles that we've adopted and that we follow underneath our leader. And then when working within my peers as firefighters, what I'm seeing them is they're absolutely tired of this pandemic. They're ready for it to move on. And it's not that simple, right? Amongst those that I am dealing with from day to day, speaking with, like I'm speaking with you, or in different forums, I find that there are some people that are still extremely afraid of what may be. Just as of the last couple of days, there's another variant.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
another variant has just popped up. I think it's called BA something, BA8, or I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but I believe it's BA. And so another variant, another thing, and dealing with, what may be and what isn't. And we're so unsure about so many things. It makes it very difficult for people to really know. I think the greatest thing that someone can do at this point in time, if they haven't found faith, they should. And they should also invest in their families, because we're living in an extremely trying time.
Yeah. Well, and sadly, the suicide rate amongst pastors in the last 2 years is at all-time high. And when you talk about emergency workers, firemen, medical providers, the stress levels are off the charts. And it's very interesting to hear about, overdose rates have increased by at least 50%. You're south of where I reside, in Palm Beach County. Here in Brevard County, we were having 2 to 3 overdose deaths per week, and during the pandemic, that's anywhere from 3 to 5 overdose deaths per week. And so people are having a hard time dealing with stress, as you alluded to, and yet our church attendance is down. So I, in my opinion, and I'm interested in your feedback, I think that's where we need to take church into the marketplace. Would you agree with that?
I, I 100%. I mean, as far as it goes for church in our organization, we have maintained, our leader is extremely positive in looking forward, but he also has given us specific direction, that so we follow his direction, which is above the standard of the CDC. So our attendance has improved.
Awesome.
Now, it went down in the beginning of the pandemic, but it came back up because he was absolute. Hey, listen, 6 feet, put a mask on, but you need to come out. If you feel sick, you stay at home, and as soon as you feel better, you come on out. If you test positive, then you do whatever the doctor says, and then afterwards you come back on out. And then pastors, you go out there, you call these people up, you check on them, you don't abandon them. And so what has happened is the zeal and the tenacity and the love has actually kicked up in such a way that the people's faith has gained a new height, a
Wow.
new level.
Wow.
And so right now we're in preparation for our holy convocation. We're going to have a great time. It's down here in Miami. We've got people that will be at the doors to make sure everyone sanitizes and they wear masks. And we will make sure all of those things are in order, because this is part of it is that it has to settle the mind, right? So if your faith isn't high, if your faith is not elevated, then what do you reside on? You reside on the natural part.
Right.
So the natural part has to be given. Remember in the book of James, whenever you say to a person that does not have clothing, that is not warm, whenever you say, be thou warm, go forth, God bless you, and do nothing, you've done nothing, because
Right.
this person doesn't have the level, they don't have the needs met to be able to reach that spiritual level that maybe you or I are walking on. But what James said is, no, give the man a blanket. Now
Right.
say, be blessed, because
Right.
now you have satisfied their need, their physical need. So when dealing with this pandemic, you have to satisfy the physical need of an individual. Go out, get your vaccination, bring your card. Everybody's being checked. Now the people that are spiritual, they may not need that much, but the people that are natural, they need it. So now they'll
Right.
show up because they feel everyone has done this. Now they are able to still eat from the spiritual table.
Right.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
important.
Well, and I love what the passion that you're coming, that's very evident. The passion's coming through. And what I like to mention too is we're so concerned about our physical well-being, right? And people, obesity or diets or whatever. So you see billions of dollars spent on your physical health. It's not that I'm not saying it's not important, but there are three areas of yourself that need to be in balance. Number one is physical. Number two is the mental wellness, the mental health, right? And that's what's seeing huge challenges in this pandemic, no question, because they've lost community. They've lost the ability to really be interactive. Our students weren't able to sit in the classrooms and so on. But in addition to the physical and the mental, you need the spiritual health and the spiritual well-being. Otherwise, that three-legged stool is not going to work. And so what we've forgotten in this great country is that when we start taking prayer out of schools, when we start not saying the Pledge of Allegiance because it mentions God in it, we got problems coming. And to echo on what you said is God expects us to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, and to take care of those who are hurting. And what's happened is I think in the North American church is we've really abdicated the responsibility for those three things that God says we're supposed to do, and we think the government's going to do it. No, it's the church's job. And yeah, so sorry, we kind of get preaching here, don't we?
No, I love it. I love it. I love it,
Yeah.
Randy. I do. I would actually split one of those into two and make
Oh,
it a
interesting.
four-legged chair or a stool, and take, because the spiritual part is actually in two pieces. Because the way that I found is the spirit speaks to who you are as an
Yes.
individual.
Yes.
It, and when that spirit is connected with the Holy Spirit, then it becomes grander, right? But the
Yes.
soul is a part of the individual, because the scripture teaches us that all souls are mine. That's what the Lord said. All souls are mine. but he doesn't call for all spirits. The only
Right.
one has one spirit, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
He
you're
wants the
right.
souls. So when you split that into two, you begin to realize, well, my spirit is different from your spirit because that shows who the individual I am. This is the being inside of me. It is
Right.
what makes my mouth speak the way I speak. It's what makes me walk the way I walk. It is my personality. And
Right.
that spirit, sometimes I have to quiet it down in order to see that greater spirit. So in
Wow.
feeding the soul, we have to take in the word, which I believe that's what you're saying. That's
Yes,
spiritual.
absolutely. Yeah.
Reading that word, hearing that word, praying in and to that word, and all those things feed that soul. So
Yes.
what we've been doing is we will feed the body and we'll correct the feeding to the body. Sometimes we'll even feed the mind. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll give drugs to the mind
Yes.
to correct the mind. And then what we'll do to the spirit is we'll either silence it through punishment, we'll silence it through punitive actions, or we'll lift it because we have graded that spirit as one that we like.
Wow.
Either which
Stuff.
way, we've done the job. We've done the job of judgment, and maybe we haven't done the job well.
Right.
as a
Right. Yeah.
society, as a
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
But
No
then we
question.
still, but as you said, we still don't always feed that soul. So that's why I said I would take that last one and I'd make two legs out of that.
No question. Yeah. It's the fact of the matter is we need to talk about it more, and we need to
Yes.
seek God's guidance more, and we
Yes.
need, and another thing that I say in my coaching or speaking is your life will be far better when you're speaking 30% of the time and listening 70%.
Yes.
Right. And when I'm listening to God's guidance more, my life is way better. And
Yes.
when I'm seeking his guidance, and when I'm surrendering,
Yes.
particularly in this whole world of recovery, right? We've got so many hurting people right now, and it's the loved ones. I get calls from moms and dads saying, okay, what am I going to do with my 26-year-old son, right? Or I get a call from a wife, what am I going to do with my husband? And it's really it's guys like you and me that we don't have all the answers, but God does.
Yes.
And it's just when we can live our lives in a way that people see. You mentioned this earlier. When we can live our lives and people can see the change, the transformation, the radical change that has
Yes.
happened in your life and in my life, that's when people say, I want what you have, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, this is so good, so good, so good. We'll have to have you back on another episode, but in order to honor the time, I need to wrap up, and we've already reminded people that those who are dying today are husbands, wives, sons, and daughters of somebody who loves them. So today's the day. As I mentioned, you can text champion to 66866 if you want more information, or if you want me to connect you with Joel. You can look for the replay of this to be available on Buzzsprout podcasts like Apple, Google, Spotify, and others. And Joel, in closing, what words of encouragement or guidance would you have for our guests?
Stay motivated. Take the time to read every day. If you read but one scripture in the morning, one at night, but read every day, meditate and take breaks, solemn breaks to get yourself out of the rat race
Good
and enjoy the
stuff.
life as you have it.
Good stuff. Out of the rat race. All right, folks. Have a blessed day and be extraordinary today.